The Los Angeles city ordinance requires the collective to supply security guards, proper lighting, other security features, cameras, things of that nature to ensure the safety of those that go into the dispensaries and the collective workers and the rest of the community.
I believe we have that in our ordinance right now, even without the cultivation on site. So I'm just saying that's what we have now. The last question I have is the cartel.
But do you have that for the cultivation or just the dispensing location?
Last I remember, we voted not to have cultivation on site or in city limits. So, of course, we
So there would be no security then for the cultivation location?
It would still be, well, you know what? It's not in the city, and it's not down the street from my neighborhood, and, you know, I guess let Monterey County worry about that. And I know that's hard to say, but at this point, you know, we have those security measures in place for the dispensing and the selling, or whatever you want to call it. You know, I know you're an attorney, so I have to watch what I say, but the places where they actually provide it for their collective members. So I'm just saying that we have that in the ordinance now, and I'm sure that if it was cultivation on site, it would remain. And so, yes, I think we do. The thing is, the question you're asking, is that still, do you see that it should be beefed up a little bit when there's actually plants on site or growth on site?
You know, I apologize, but I haven't seen your ordinance, and I can't answer your question on what specifically is in your ordinance with respect to...
The city's ordinance mirrors the LA city ordinance with regard to security.
Okay, so it's basically like LA City Ordinance. The last question, and I did say, and
And I do think that's sufficient.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, City Attorney, for it being sufficient. The cartels in Long Beach, I know that this big fear that Councilmember O'Donnell had talked about is having the cartels within that from the outside come into the city. Is there anything from preventing them from being here already, even if you do it on site? I mean, what is there some immunity because it's outside the county? Because if you don't know about them now and they haven't been, any law enforcement action has been taken on them, so what's preventing these people from being within the city limits, or even down the street on Wardlow, where one of my, two dispensaries on the same street, across the street from each other? What would prevent them from doing it on site as opposed to?
The law doesn't permit one to make a profit from the distribution of medical marijuana. So when you force the dispensaries to comply with state law and cultivate it on site, it allows law enforcement, it allows the city, whoever's going to regulate it, gives them the opportunity to compare the number of plants being grown with the number of qualified patients. That once you take the money out of from the vendors who sell at essentially the going wholesale rate, whether it's to a dispensary or black market, it's the same price. Once you take that out of the equation, there really is no incentive for a Mexican cartel to come in and start a dispensary that's not for profit and cultivate it on site. Well, that's typically not how they work.
The number, I mean, the amount of marijuana that is allowed that we have in the ordinance, I believe, I don't remember it's still in there, but that was looked at to be able to have on site, to limit the amount of marijuana that you have on site. They wouldn't be able to make a profit from that anyway. If we're
and
limiting,
they shouldn't.
Yeah, exactly. So then their incentive would be gone. If we're limiting,
right, if you do it on site, it would be gone. If you allow them to cultivate it in the Angeles National Forest, where it can't really be regulated by your law enforcement, and instead of having 100 plants, they have 100,000 plants, they're going to sell it to other people, and they're still going to profit.
But I'm talking about in Long Beach. If we limit the inventory for a place in Long Beach, then they are not going to be able to make a profit in Long Beach. Now, we can only deal with Long Beach. Now, I know you're...
Honestly, I think that's very short-sighted. When the cost of a gram of marijuana at a dispensary is the going rate in an alley or in a dispensary, the only way you're going to bring the cost down is to force them to cultivate it on site and comply with state law. Because if they're cultivating it on site, they're not going to be buying it from a vendor at the wholesale rate of $3,000 or $4,000 a pound, and then turning around and selling it for $7,000 to $9,000 a pound.
And I will tell you, and this is it, that my constituents don't care about profit. They don't care about nonprofit. They don't care about any of that. They don't want marijuana growing 3 blocks from their house, Or even to actually, yeah, so I hear you all the time, Jerry, I hear you, but the problem is, I still have not heard you tell me anything that I could tell them that makes them feel comfortable with them growing it in a location. I mean, they don't want the dispensaries anyway, and I think that a strong ordinance will get rid of about 75 or 80% of them. But now that we're saying that, okay, you're going to grow on site, oh, well, we'll leave 15% of them around because they're going to all adhere to the things in the ordinance. But yet I still don't see, I can't get any, I don't have any message to send to them to say, you know what, we're going to lessen the number, but the ones that are there are going to be whoppers because they're going to be cultivating, and you're going to have a cultivating location wherever a permissible vendor or whatever, what is the name, what would you call it, a collective is located.
Collective.
Yeah, so what do I tell them?
I think you can tell them everything I told you tonight.
And it just doesn't help.
Councilmember Ships.